Welcome to WikiPodcast. Today, we're diving deep into Hinduism. It's a faith that, it fascinates so many people with its incredible richness and traditions. And what we really want to unpack today is something that often comes up, something that can seem quite puzzling if you're new to it. How does a religion that people often say has 33 million deities, that number always gets quoted, how does that connect with a core belief in essentially one single underlying reality? If you've ever felt a bit lost trying to grasp the sheer number of Hindu gods and wondered, how it all fits together, then hopefully we can bring some clarity today.
Absolutely. That number, 33 million, it certainly sounds vast, maybe even overwhelming, and it's a really valid question. How does this huge pantheon align with this idea of a unified divine? So our goal in this deep dive, and we're drawing on the wealth of information from Wikipedia about Hinduism's history, its core beliefs, different traditions, is really to explore this apparent paradox. We want to offer you not just understanding, but maybe some genuinely insightful ways to think about it.
Okay, so when we say Hinduism, it sounds like it's not just one thing. It's maybe more like a collection, a library, perhaps.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sense of what that term actually covers?
That's a really good way to put it, a library. Yeah. Hinduism is very much an umbrella term. It covers this huge range of religious and spiritual traditions from India. They're often called sampradayas. And interestingly, it doesn't really have a single starting point or founder like some other major faiths. It's more of a synthesis, a fusion that happened over a long period, say roughly 500 BCE to 300 CE. You had Brahmanical practices blending with all sorts of local Indian cultures and beliefs. It just sort of evolved.
Right, so it's grown over time, absorbing different influences, like a big river. I've also heard terms like Sanatana Dharma and Vedika Dharma. What do those tell us? Are those terms Hindus themselves use?
Exactly. Those are endonyms, terms from within the tradition. Sanatana Dharma is a big one. It translates roughly to eternal Dharma, or the eternal way, and it really emphasizes this belief in its timelessness, origins beyond human history. Vaidika Dharma means Vedic Dharma, pointing to the importance of the Vedas, those ancient scriptures. And you're right, Sanatana Dharma has become quite common, especially in modern times, for Hindus to use when referring to their faith. It underlines that sense of ancient, unbroken continuity.
Okay. And if we try to pin down, who is a Hindu? Is there a simple definition?
Well, legally speaking, particularly in India, the Supreme Court has actually offered some guidelines. It talks about things like holding the Vedas in reverence, accepting that there are many different paths to salvation or liberation, and, significantly for our discussion, recognizing and worshiping a large number of gods and goddesses. So even the legal view acknowledges this diversity.
Which brings us right back to that core question, doesn't it? This incredible diversity on one hand and this idea of fundamental unity on the other, it feels almost contradictory.
It can definitely seem that way at first glance. I mean, the variety within Hinduism is just immense. We're talking different beliefs, different philosophies, rituals, sacred texts. It's vast. That's why people often call it a family of religions rather than a single monolithic faith. There isn't one single creed that everyone has to sign up to.
So you could have someone who's deeply devoted to, say, Krishna, and someone else whose main focus is Shiva, and they're both very much considered Hindu.
Oh, absolutely. You see these major streams today, like Vaishnavism focusing on Vishnu and his avatars, Shaivism for Shiva, Shaktism revering the goddess or Shakti, and Smardism, which is interesting because it traditionally honors 5 deities as sort of equal pathways. But here's the key point. For many, many Hindus, these diverse deities are actually seen as different aspects or maybe manifestations of one single ultimate reality, this concept called Brahman.
Okay, so Brahman is the single source, and the different gods are like expressions of that source, like light through a prism showing different colors. Is that a fair analogy?
That's a beautiful analogy, actually, yes. One light, many colors. While some specific traditions might elevate one deity as supreme, maybe seeing others as lower forms, that underlying idea of a single divine source, Brahman, is very pervasive. And historically, you also had these 6 major schools of philosophy, the darshanas. Vedanta and yoga are probably the best known today, but all 6 accept the authority of the Vedas while offering distinct philosophical views. It just shows the built-in diversity of thought.
So tell us more about Brahman, the single unifying reality. How is it understood? Is it like a person or more like a force?
Great question. Brahman is conceived as the absolute reality, the ultimate foundational principle behind everything. It's often talked about in two ways, which is helpful. There's Nirguna Brahman, that's Brahman without attributes.
Hmm.
Impersonal, beyond description, beyond human understanding. Think pure consciousness or being itself. And then there's Saguna Brahman, that's Brahman with attributes. This is the divine conceived as a personal god or goddess, something, tangible that devotees can relate to, worship, form a relationship with.
Ah, okay. So Nirguna is the abstract ultimate, and Saguna is the ultimate made manifest, relatable.
You could put it that way, yes. And the famous Trimurti Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they are prime examples of Saguna Brahman, key expressions. Along with the Tridevi, their consorts Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati, they represent these fundamental cosmic functions: Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, Shiva the transformer or dissolver, and the goddesses embody wisdom, prosperity, divine power. And then beyond them, you have this vast pantheon, other devas and devas, figures like Ganesha, Hanuman, Durga, the avatars of Vishnu like Rama and Krishna, each embodying different divine energies or aspects.
And it's really noticeable how prominent both male and female deities are. That balance seems quite important.
It absolutely is. The divine feminine, often called Shakti, is incredibly significant. In some traditions, Shakti is seen as the fundamental power, the energy that actually enables the masculine principles to act. You even see forms like Ardhanarishvara, which is Shiva and Parvati merged into one body, representing the unity of masculine and feminine. It's a very strong element.
So, given all these deities, is it fair to just call Hinduism polytheistic, believing in many gods? Or is that too simple?
It's generally considered too simple, yeah. While it looks polytheistic on the surface, a term that often fits better is henotheism. Henotheism means worshiping one particular god, maybe focusing your devotion there without denying that other gods exist or are also valid forms of the divine. So a Vaishnava focusing on Vishnu still acknowledges Shiva and Durga as real, as manifestations of the ultimate. It's not quite the same as believing in many separate, unrelated gods. It acknowledges an underlying unity.
That makes sense. It's a more nuanced picture. Now, how does the individual person fit in? What about the soul, the Atman? How does that relate to Brahman?
This is where we get to the really deep sense of unity. The Atman, the self, the individual soul, is considered eternal in Hinduism. Now, exactly how the Atman relates to Brahman, well, that's where different schools of thought diverge a bit. Advaita Vedanta, which is a major non-dualistic school, famously teaches that the Atman is ultimately non-different from Brahman. They are one and the same. So the goal of life, from this perspective, isn't just to worship God, it's to realize that inherent oneness, to wake up to the fact that your true self is the ultimate reality.
Wow. So it's like discovering the ocean within the drop, realizing the divine isn't just out there, but also right here within us.
Exactly. That's a very Advaitic way of seeing it. But then you have other schools, dualistic schools, which maintain a distinction. They see Brahman as the supreme being and individual souls as eternally separate, though connected to God. And this view often leads to very strong devotional practices, focusing on love and service to a specific personal deity.
And all those different practices we hear about bhakti, the different yogas like jnana yoga, karma yoga, do they tie into this? Offering different ways to reach that goal, whether it's realization or devotion.
Precisely. Bhakti, which is devotional worship, is incredibly popular. People choose an Ishta Devata, a chosen deity, and focus their love and prayers there. It's a path of the heart. But Hinduism recognizes multiple valid paths to liberation or moksha. You have Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge and wisdom, often associated with realizing that Atman-Brahman unity. And Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action, doing your duty without attachment to results. The variety of deities provides this rich tapestry, allowing people to find a connection, a path that resonates with them personally. But often, they're all seen as leading towards that same ultimate reality, Brahman.
So wrapping this up, the main takeaway seems to be that this huge, almost bewildering array of Hindu gods isn't necessarily a contradiction to the idea of one ultimate reality. Instead, it's more like there are diverse expressions of that single reality, Brahman, different aspects, different energies, different ways for people to connect with and understand the divine.
That's a perfect summary, yes. It's a framework that brilliantly holds both incredible diversity in practice and devotion, and this profound sense of underlying, unifying truth. It embraces the many as the manifestation of the one.
It really is a fascinating concept. It makes you think, doesn't it? How this idea of one reality showing up in countless different forms might apply elsewhere, in other areas of life or philosophy. Definitely something to mull over.
Indeed. And perhaps for you, our listener, reflecting on this interplay between unity and diversity in Hinduism, Maybe consider how that dynamic resonates in your own view of the world or even within yourself.
Thanks for listening. Write us in the comments your opinion on the episode and what other topics you would like us to talk about. Subscribe to the channel to help us reach more listeners. Thank you and have an amazing day.